Hello, hello, hello everyone. Michael Williams here. I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to begin to join me. It's great to see everyone here. And today we are going to be continuing with this series, 3 Stop Stuttering Secrets that could change your life. 3 Stop Stuttering Secrets that could change your life. When you join, if you can, I'm just going to type this in here. Go ahead and let us know where you're joining from, okay? Let me just see if we can get this here. Yeah, so go ahead and let us know where you're joining from. And I'm just going to type that into the comment box. Also, if you have comments or questions, please type that into the comment box. Please let us know from where you are joining. That is the proper way to say this, right? Okay. Thanks. Good. So I'm going to be monitoring the chats and the comments, which I can see right here on my phone. I'm also going to be looking over here to my computer sometimes because it's a little larger. And if I need to respond, I'll respond on my computer because it's easier. So I want to once again welcome you all here. We will try to do this every week and would love to have you join us here. Hello, Utkarsh. It's good to see you. Good to see you again. So this week, again, we're going to be continuing with our series. What I want to do now is just a quick and brief review for those of you who didn't catch us last week. And I want to encourage you to scroll down. I'll see if I can put a link in there. But I want to encourage you. Hey, Suresh, how are you? I think I'm going to see you Saturday. I'd like to encourage you to watch the other video, okay? And I've created a single video. I recorded a single video with audio and a written transcript, right? And I have a little package that you can download for free entitled the same thing, 3 Stop Stuttering Secrets that could change your life and your speech. And I'll put a link to that at the end of this session so you can download the video, the audio, and the complete transcript. I did that for you last week. So not only do I have these live sessions where we go a little deeper, but I also have a single video, okay? So I'm going to do that. So thank you all for joining me. Just briefly, I'd like to just hear from you what you recall we talked about last week. I know a couple of you were here with us last week. So what were some of the things that you remember? Last week we talked about 2 principles, right? We talked about 2 principles. And I believe we talked about the first secret, which started with an F. So how about if you just type into the chat box, what were the 2 principles that we talked about last week? Because they're very important. What were those 2 principles? And if you can remember, what was the first secret that started with an F? So the secrets that we're going to be dealing with are pretty easy for you to remember. And it's what we call an acrostic. Some of you might call it an acronym. And it's represented by the word FIT, F-I-T. So each letter has a meaning. Each letter actually represents a secret. All right, so go ahead and type in for me into the chat box the principles that we dealt with last week. So what I'm going to do now, though, is I'm just going to jump right in and talk about the first secret and then the second and the third secret. So we talked about the first one last week, but here's a brief review of that. The first secret was to focus on becoming an excellent speaker, not on how to stop stuttering or how to cure stuttering or even how to overcome stuttering. Yes, thank you. All right, good. So 2 principles. The principle of liking or loving yourself and the principle of responsibility. So last week, the first 2 things we talked about were those 2 principles. So go back and review that, and I'll also, again, put the link for you of a complete video where we go through that. Then we talked about shifting your focus, that's the F, shifting your focus to the kind of speaker you want to become and keeping it off of what you don't want to do, which is you don't want to stutter, right? You don't want to get stuck. You don't want to have a fear of anticipating. So don't try to actually get rid of that. Don't focus on that. Focus on the characteristics that you want to acquire. Focus on the kind of speaker that you want to become. And so we said by shifting your focus to something more positive, more constructive, you're far more likely to move towards that and to get that than you are if you focus on what you don't want. And we use an example of thinking about a red sports car. So I said, don't think about a red sports car. And I kept saying that. And most of you probably thought, at least initially, about a red sports car. Why? Because in order for us to not think about something, we have to have a reference of what that something is, right? So if someone says, don't think about this, or I don't want to do this, well, the more you tell yourself, I don't want to do something, your brain has to have a reference of what that something is. In order to have a reference, it has to go in, it has to compare whatever that is with your previous knowledge. So it says, okay, what is this something we don't want to do? So it goes through your history, it goes through your memories. So, okay, here's what we don't want to do, right? And so the whole time that you're spending thinking about and talking about what you don't want to do, you're actually focusing your attention and your mind and your energies on doing the exact thing that you don't want to do, right? So that is why you simply talk about and think about what you do want to do. I want to become an excellent speaker. I want to speak smoother. I do speak smoother. I'm a genius at speaking. That's why you want to do that, okay? Because you'll be more likely to move towards that than if you do the other thing. So we talked about shifting our focus. That's the F. Very, very important. Let's talk about the I. You've heard me talk about this in other videos. And every time I think about it, every time I work with clients, it always comes back to this, right? This is very important. And it's called immersion. Immerse yourself, okay? So the I in FIT stands for immerse or immersion. What we mean when we say immerse is we mean that you completely engulf yourself. If you immerse yourself in water, it's much like diving into a swimming pool, right? You go in and you're completely covered and surrounded by the water. Well, in the same way, you want to immerse yourself in this process of improving your speech, of becoming an excellent speaker. Very important to completely immerse yourself. Now, some of you may have to incrementally get yourself into it, right? Just because it might just be too overwhelming for you. Just know that if you incrementally focus on your speech, it's going to take you a very, very long time. But you will see small improvements and you will continue to move forward. And you'll probably get more and more motivated and eventually immerse yourself in the process. However, just realize, hello, Muhammad. Good to see you, Ahmed, Lior, everyone who's joining us. Thank you so much, and thank you for letting us know where you're from. So, remember, to immerse yourself is the fastest way and actually the best way, and there are a few reasons for this. Number one, it takes you a particular amount of time, a certain amount of time, to build your neural circuitry, right? To build the new neural pathways. And if you incrementally do it, the current circuitry, the current connections or pathways are already there. They're already built in. They're already strong, right? So those are going to almost always override any new thing that you try to do. And so the battle is harder. The battle is longer. If you come in and you're developing a new habit, it's important that you build the new pathways, the new behavior, as quickly as you possibly can. And it takes a certain amount of time depending on the behavior that you're trying to build, right? So certain behaviors, studies have shown, can take about 18 days. That's where you kind of get the 21-day thing, right? 18 days, anywhere from 18 to 30 days or so. Certain behaviors, certain habits can take around that long. The average has been about 66 days or so, so about 2 months, right? 8 weeks, 8 weeks. That's why a lot of military training is 8 weeks. You can build a new habit in 8 weeks. Certain other habits can take you 8 to 9 months, sometimes longer. And especially if you're replacing a habit, if you're replacing a pattern of thinking and a pattern of behavior, it can take a while. That doesn't mean that you have to wait for 8 months before you see it. It just means that before it really becomes automatic, it could take about 8 months. So with your speech, because that's so integrated into your personality, into who you are, into your thinking, your beliefs, and all of that, you have to understand and realize that this is something that's going to take 8, 9 months, a year. But it doesn't take 8 or 9 months, a year for you to stop stuttering. It could take you 8 or 9 months or a year or longer to become an excellent speaker, right? And I've seen people who go through the system and they actually can become excellent presenters in 8 weeks or less. And as far as their conversations, that can take a little longer, but they can start to see dramatic improvements within 8 to 12 weeks. So your speech can change dramatically within a 12-week period of time. Now, when does this become automatic where you stop thinking about it so much? Well, that's what takes longer, right? So the more you do it, and the sooner you do it, within a certain period of time, a certain kind of compact period of time, then the quicker it becomes a habit. So what does that have to do with immersion? Everything. When you immerse yourself in a process, what you do is you speed up the time that it takes you to turn that thing into a habit. So let's talk about language. I took a language course many years ago, and I went to Guatemala and stayed there for, might have been about a month. And I found that by immersing myself in the language, that is, being around people who spoke it all the time, so I heard it, I watched it, right, on TV, I listened to it, I wrote it, right, and I spoke it. It made my Spanish improve quickly, more quickly than if I had stayed at home and only watched it and listened to it sometimes and practiced it sometimes. So by immersing myself, I was able to, within a short period of time, quickly improve my ability to speak Spanish. So this is the same thing with you. If you want to improve your ability to speak well, if you want to become an excellent speaker, both conversations and presentations, you're going to want and need to immerse yourself in the process. Now, how do you do that? Well, here's an affirmation. Here's something that you can think to yourself. Every time I open my mouth, it's practice time. Every time I open my mouth, it's practice time. So you want to remind yourself that whenever you speak to someone, it's an opportunity for you to practice your new speaking style, to practice smiling, to practice extending your words, whatever it is. Whenever you open your mouth, it's an opportunity to practice. I want to go a step beyond that. You want to be proactive. That is, you actually want to go out and create opportunities to practice. So don't just wait for them to come. Go out and create opportunities. By doing this every day, every time you open your mouth, you remind yourself, what you're going to do is you're going to be immersing yourself in this process. Now, what are some other things that you can do to immerse yourself? Listen to audios. Watching videos are great, but you generally don't watch videos when you're in transition. Unless you're riding on a bus, then you can. But if you're driving, you're probably not going to be watching videos. So watching videos, some people actually learn better that way. But listening to audios is probably the most powerful way, because you're listening, it's kind of passive. You can be actively engaged, but it's passive, and you're learning things while you listen. So that's why in the new Pro 90D and also in the Smooth Speech Bootcamp course, I've created a routine, and the routine includes a mobile application, right, which is powered by Box. And I've put all the audios that you need to listen to daily in a series of folders. And all you have to do is just click and listen each day, listen to the audios. There are other audios and videos that you can listen to, but the key is, this is a way to immerse yourself. What are you immersing yourself in? What you're doing is, these audios and videos are created to target certain thought patterns, right? Certain beliefs that you have. So when you immerse yourself, you're literally listening to something that's challenging and slowly changing your thinking and your beliefs and ultimately your behaviors. Listening alone is not enough, though. Listening alone is not enough. There are some other things that you have to do, and that's what we're talking about here in terms of practicing. So every time you open your mouth, you see this as an opportunity to practice. Now here's what's going to happen. You're going to open your mouth to practice, and you're going to say, okay, and then let me start practicing with this person. Then just a few seconds later, you're going to forget. You're going to revert back to your old style. That's normal. That's okay. As soon as you recognize it, just say, okay, I just forgot. Let me try again. Just keep the battle going. Keep the challenge going throughout the conversation. Make it a priority to work on your speech for a certain period of time until it becomes a habit. That period of time is about 8 to 12 weeks. You have to make it your number one priority. Some people say, oh, well, I don't have time. Well, I'm in school and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And I understand that sometimes things do take other priority. But what you want to do is you want to integrate and embed this process in your life, right? You don't want to take time out to work on your speech. That's not the best way to work on your speech, to go away someplace for a certain amount of time or say, well, I'll work on it when I have time. No, the best way to work on it is while you're doing the things that you do every day, because that's where you need to use it, right? That's where you need to develop it. So I have a question from Ahmed. How much time must we spend on immersing ourselves each day? Okay, so the general question, my general response to that is all day. Think about it. Every time you open your mouth, right, you're going to be challenging yourself to use your new speaking style. You're going to be reminding yourself, okay, I can relax. I can take my time. So every time, all day, every time you speak, right? When you're not speaking, then you're doing an affirmation, or you're doing your work, whatever it is that you do, at school or your job, right? So you're constant, and when you're at work, if you have to speak, then you remind yourself then. If you don't have to speak, sometimes people send an email when sometimes they could call, or they could walk down the hall. So challenge yourself. Say, okay, instead of sending an email, I'm actually going to go talk to this person. Why? To practice my speech. So immersion means all day, all the time, every time you speak. In the program, you want to spend in formal practice roughly an hour, right? Anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour of formal practice. I can't describe all the details of formal practice because that's in the program, and in the new Pro 90D I lay it out very, very clearly what formal practice includes. It includes modeling, it includes modeling and also free flow speaking. And you don't have to do free flow speaking for the entire 8 weeks, but modeling is a big part of the formal practice. Informal practice is all the time. So great question. Very important point you said, integrating immersion with our everyday life. Yes, so let me continue with that. You want to integrate it, you want to embed it, because if you feel like you don't have time, then it's something that you have to do over there where I got to make time. Just because I said you have to, or that you should, spend between 40 minutes to an hour, doesn't mean you have to sit down and do it for an hour at a specific time. It could mean that you do 10 minutes here, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon. Take a lunch break, go to your car, go someplace, do 10 minutes of modeling. Do 10 minutes in the evening time, right? Do 15, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, embed it throughout your day, okay? So listening. Listen in the morning time. Listen while you're going to work. Best time to listen to the audio is definitely in the morning while you're going to work or school. But also listen throughout the day. Listen in the evening. Listen in the afternoon. Embed it. Integrate it throughout your day. Because you're speaking all the time, right? So when you immerse yourself, what you're doing is you're making this new way of thinking, you're making this new way of speaking a part of your everyday life, not as something separate and out there and something that you have to do. You're making it a part of what you already do. Okay, Tyler, it's good to see you, man. I hope everything is going well for you. So you want to make sure that you integrate and embed this process of immersing yourself into your everyday life. Very, very important. So, immerse yourself in the process of becoming an excellent speaker. How do you do it? Well, one way is to remind yourself every time I open my mouth, it's practice time. This is time to practice. Not only do you wait until you open your mouth, you actually try to be more proactive and you create conversational opportunities. You make calls when you don't have to. You go talk to people when you don't need to. You go out and you have conversations with people. You speak up when you don't have to for the sole purpose of practicing. Okay, let me raise my hand and make a comment in this meeting. I don't have to, but I want to, just so that I can practice, okay? And you do this, you think about this all the time. All right. Any questions or comments about immersing yourself in this process, what that means and how to do it? So immersing yourself means you're constantly thinking about it. You're watching something, you're listening to something, you're practicing, you're doing affirmations. You're doing this every single day. Why? Because you speak every single day, you think every single day. If you've been struggling with your speech, you're probably anticipating every single day. So what you want to do is integrate this in so you overwrite your current level of confidence, your current way of thinking, your current way of speaking. You override it every single day with a new way. That's why you have to immerse it, right? That's why you have to immerse yourself, because you're doing these things every day, so you can't just do these things sometimes, right? If you do these things sometimes, then what's already there, what's already strong, is going to continue to be more prominent in your life, right? It's going to continue. It's just going to be hard. It's just constantly battling against what's already there. So if you immerse yourself, it's like a huge wave that comes in, and you just do this thing for 8 to 12 weeks, and what you find, this old style doesn't go away. It never really goes away, right? Because the neurons, the connections are always there. They just become weaker. And the new neural pathways, the new connections, the new memories that you've created become stronger. And the stronger they become, right, the stronger they become, the more it becomes your normal way of thinking and speaking. I know this from personal experience and from people that I've worked with. Now we're going to take it a step further when we talk about the T, right? Transformation, transforming your identity. Lior, immersion is an essential part of creating new habits. Yes, it is. Now, remember, it's not the only way. You can create a new habit incrementally, just doing one little thing at a time. Sometimes that's the best way for you. Let me just do a little bit. Let me just practice for 5 minutes. And you do 5 minutes and you say, okay, you know what, I'm going to do 20 minutes or 15 minutes. Sometimes you have to trick yourself into doing that. But just remember, your ultimate goal is to immerse yourself so you can really get in there and take care of this thing. Okay. Now, let's talk about transforming your identity, right? You want to completely transform your identity so that not only has this new way of thinking more confidently, not anticipating, right? Not anticipating as much, or not being afraid when you do anticipate. Believe it or not, there are times where I anticipate. I just get this feeling like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to say that word. Happened to me a few weeks ago when I was at a retreat. We all had to say our name, and we had to say a word that represented why we were there. I didn't have any problem with my name, but the word, just for whatever reason, it wasn't a word that I usually, or that I have struggled with. It's just something that says, oh, you might not be able to say that. So that happens. But I had enough experience and confidence, okay, I'll just add another word in front of it. When it came my turn, when I went to say the word that was in front of the other word, that didn't come out as smooth. So I threw another word in front of that word, and then it all just came out smoothly, right? So sometimes even I anticipate, but I have tools and I have confidence, and just very, very calmly just said what I needed to say, and then didn't even think about it anymore. Just kept going, spoke several times a day. So here's the thing. Sometimes you're going to anticipate. 10 years from now, you might still anticipate, but you'll have so many experiences that it won't even bother you. You'll just know what to do, and you'll do it, and you'll keep going. That's what happens when you transform your identity. So let's talk about this T in FIT. Transforming your identity so that you no longer have to rely on techniques and strategies. And I'm going to include tools, but you're going to have tools in your toolbox that you take with you for the rest of your life when you need them, right? If you don't need them, great. If you do need them, then you have them there and you know that they work. But you don't want to be reliant upon techniques and tools and strategies, and I got to do this, got to airflow link, or whatever someone might teach you. I got to breathe, I got to do this. You don't want to do that. You want to move beyond that. The purpose of the Pro 90D is to get you to a place where you literally are an excellent speaker, and you see yourself that way, and you know that you are, and other people have affirmed it. Other people will tell you, wow, that was a great presentation. Wow, you know what? You're a great speaker. People will tell you that. And you think that. Here's something that happened to me several years ago, many years ago actually. There were times where I would, in my dreams, see myself getting stuck. And there was some point, even after I had become a pretty good speaker, I would still sometimes see myself. In fact, it was after I started this program, this business in 2009, because I was working with people who stuttered, then I started watching it and seeing. And so it began to impact me, it began to affect me, right? Because one of the things I tell you is, if you can, do not hang out with people who stutter. Now, if there's someone in your family and you have to, great, that's fine. But don't go join organizations where there's a whole bunch of people who stutter. I know that may sound cruel, but there's a reason. It's the same principle that modeling is based off. If you spend time with, you look at, you listen to, you watch someone who stutters, it's going to affect your speech, especially if you struggle with your speech. Don't do it. Just don't spend time. Don't even spend time in forums with people complaining and talking about it and accepting it. Don't do it. You're focused on becoming an excellent speaker. So hang around with people who are excellent speakers. Don't hang around with people who stutter and who are okay with that, unless you want to be okay with it. If you want to be okay with it, then by all means do that. This is probably not the forum for you. But if you actually want to become an excellent speaker, then hang around with people that are working on that or are excellent speakers. This is a major part of transforming your identity, right? So what happens is when your identity is transformed, when you dream, right, whenever you dream and you're in that dream, you won't see yourself struggling with your speech, right? Once your dreams have changed, then it's changed on a deep subconscious level, okay? So that's one indication that your identity has changed. So let's talk about transforming your identity and how you actually do that. The major way and the fastest way, believe it or not, to transform your identity is through modeling. And the reason is because you literally borrow the confidence. That's the thing that people tell me. I can actually, in fact, I hope you're coming to the boot camp this weekend, because one of the things that we're going to be having you do is to practice modeling. I'm going to be evaluating people and giving you tips, and we're actually going to be practicing. Remember, this is not a webinar, it's a boot camp. We're actually going to be working. So when you model, you borrow the confidence. So people tell me, hey, I feel more confident. When I just modeled, like right then and there, it just felt more confident. When you model, you borrow the confidence. You borrow the smoothness. You borrow literally the speaking identity of your model. And the more you do that, and you can do it in conversation. I'm going to give you a little trick or tip for doing that, right? In conversations. But you can definitely do it in presentations. It's very easy to do. When you borrow your model's identity, then when you get in a high pressure situation, you say, oh, I'm just going to speak like my model. I'm just going to speak like Michael speaks. How does Michael speak? How does Michael act? I'm going to speak like, I'm going to pretend as if I'm Michael right now, or whoever your model is. Then, when your brain goes back to see, and it does this very, very quickly, right? Because you have a self-image, your brain goes back to see, what do I look like, and how do I perform? So it's looking for the snapshot of you, of how you look and how you perform in every situation. So when you go into a situation, ordering food, answering the phone, explaining yourself, the brain says, okay, how are we supposed to perform now? So it goes back and says, oh, this is how we usually perform. So it pulls that up. That's why you feel like you have no control over it. You do have control, but you have to systematize it. You have to program it, right? Process it. It's not something you do right then. You program it in. So here's what happens when you model. When you model, you instantly focus your mind and your attention on how your model would say that. So then the brain doesn't have time to go back and look for how you would do it because it's focused now on how your model would perform. And what happens is it can instantly and, again, dramatically improve your performance in that moment when you model. Now, a problem can be if you don't really know how your model would speak, or if you haven't been practicing speaking like your model. Then when you say, okay, I'm going to speak like my model, but if you haven't been doing it, then the brain doesn't have a reference for that, right? So you have to create a reference. You have to create a reference. How do you do that? That's where your formal practice comes in. Now, there's some informal practice. When you're listening to the audios, you're also listening to the speaking pattern, the rhythm of your model. So it's in there. Your job then is to activate that, right? To consciously activate the speaking style of your model in any given situation. So again, you're going to go answer the phone or do something. How would my model do this? Right? You do it that way. How can someone model someone else probably or properly is probably what you're saying, right? Okay. So modeling is something that's very natural. Babies do it, right? Doesn't have to be taught. It's programmed into our DNA code. We learn how to do much of what we do, even as adults, by watching through observation, watching, studying. Athletes, pro athletes learn, musicians learn, artists learn, all kinds of surgeons learn by modeling, by watching. That's not the only way they learn, but it's a major way. So by observation, by watching and studying, not just by casually looking at something, but by studying someone, watching every little thing that they do, spending time making a mental imprint of how that person's doing, what they're doing, thinking about, well, why do they do it this way? How do they do it? Just spending hours and hours observing that person, right? So what happens is when you spend time, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, when you spend time actively observing your model, you're making a mental imprint, and then you're creating a reference style, right? You're literally creating a pattern in your brain of how your model speaks. Then your job is to practice that using your model's words first, but then practice it using your own words. Yes, so I'm getting to how you do that. So how do you do it? Well, you do it by spending time watching your model and listening to your model. So your question is, how do we practice modeling? You watch and you listen to your model. You memorize something that your model's done. Now remember, all of this is in the Pro 90D. It's all in the Pro 90D. It's laid out in a daily routine, right? So I'm just going to give you a quick overview, but it's there. So you watch and you study. You pick audio or video. You watch and study it. You memorize something that your model's done, and you practice it, and you record yourself. Then you create your own presentations, but you use your model style. Your words, but your model style. Then you go out and you practice this in front of someone to increase the pressure. Could be a family member or a friend. Then you go out and you do something at work or at school or in the community. I went out and went to colleges and says, hey, I have this presentation on time management and goal setting that I'd like to do. I practiced modeling, and I went out and I created opportunities. I worked full time. I created opportunities to give presentations, okay? So that's how you practice it. You watch, you listen, you memorize, then you present, you do it by yourself, you record yourself, then you do it in front of people, then you do it in public. Okay, that's the how. That's the how. All right. Now, someone said, Lior, I think that immersion actually helps making those references. So the I is tied to the T. Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's a great point. The I is tied to the T. When you immerse yourself in this process, what happens is, as you're watching and you're listening and you're practicing, right, you're slowly transforming your identity. The next step to that, right, the way to really boost that is now to focus on literally becoming like your model, right? Become like your model every chance you get. Now, I told you that I was going to share with you a little tip or trick to do this in conversations. For many people, it's easy to do it in presentations, but just challenged when it comes to conversations. So what do? You say to yourself, how do I speak when I'm modeling? How do I speak when I'm modeling in presentations? Well, I tend to speak with a rhythm. My pitch is a little higher. I tend to extend more of my words. I tend to use my hands, right? I tend to speak with a little more energy when I'm modeling. Okay, well, when I'm in a conversation, remind myself to speak the same way. Speak with a little more energy. Use my hands more. Extend my words more. Raise my pitch a little, right? The same things that you do when you're modeling, remind yourself to do this when you're conversing. I know this works because this is what I did, right? I didn't figure out this until many years later. I was out doing presentations constantly and just doing them. I mean, never started, never got stuck at all. I could do a presentation, 30, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, no notes, just boom, boom, boom. Conversation still struggling, right? So I was trying to figure this thing out. And then finally I said, okay, Michael, what are you doing when you present? How are you speaking? And I went through the saying, okay, well, I'm doing this, I'm speaking this, I have more energy. Well, do that in your conversations. And I said, well, wouldn't that sound like I'm teaching all the time? I said, well, it might start out that way, but you'll adjust it. So I started speaking with the same kind of a little more dramatic style in conversation, a little more of a rhythm, right? And then slowly I began to adjust it down so it felt and sounded more normal in conversations. Utkarsh, I had a job interview 5 days ago. Just knowing the fact that I could model Michael whenever and anywhere I wanted to relaxed me so much. I wasn't at all nervous during the interview. The interview went, let me just expand this here. Okay, the interview went well, and I'm waiting for the results. Awesome. That's awesome. So do you see how in a real life situation, you're able to borrow the confidence? Now, he said he felt more relaxed, so you're able to... All right, we had a little bit of an interruption there in the internet. So you're able to borrow even being relaxed, right? Being relaxed, being confident, speaking smoothly. You can borrow all of these things from your model. Now, here's the secret. when you do this, and the more you do it, the more you transform your identity, right? So you borrow your model's identity, and you keep borrowing it every time you speak, every presentation, and you start doing what? Creating a brand new speaking identity for yourself. I've seen people do this in a matter of weeks, right? They model all the time. The next thing you know, 8 weeks later, they don't have to think about their model anymore. They just speak using their new speaking style. But what most people do, unfortunately, is that they either don't model, or they model sporadically, or they only model when they have to do a presentation. So their conversations struggle, or when they try to model, it doesn't really work for them because they did it sporadically. You have to immerse yourself in the process. You have to trust it. It's new. It's going to feel strange. It's not going to work as smoothly as you would like at first. But just know that this is the way you learn how to speak in the first place. So you can't say, well, I'm not sure that this will work. It has worked. It already is working. So of course it'll work. Well, I tried this and I was a high-pressure situation. I just reverted back to the way I was. Well, that's normal, right? But you have to keep reverting back to your new speaking style. You have to hang in there with it. Griffin, hi, Michael. Did you ever experiment with mindfulness, transcendental meditation, as it relates to your self-image modeling fluency? A little bit of mindfulness, which I guess you could call that transcendental meditation. Certainly, I do want to actually speak about this mindfulness, or at least just a part of it. That can certainly help you a lot. And here's one way I think that it can help you. I think it can help you in many different ways. First of all, being more relaxed. But here's the way I think it can help you the most. Being in the moment. Being in the here and now. See, what happens with so many people is they are constantly scanning forward. They're constantly anticipating and thinking about what other people are thinking and thinking, well, I hope I don't get stuck. Well, I know I'm going to have to sit. So they're not in the moment, right? They're not in the moment. They're someplace else. When one aspect of mindfulness is when you're able to be in the here and now, almost having an empty mind, being purely in the here and now and being present for yourself and for others. When you do that, then you simply don't have the time to be scanning ahead and thinking about other things and thinking about getting stuck. So, yes, mindfulness can remind us to pause for 1 to 3 seconds before. Yes, so learning to relax, learning to take your time, learning to pause, learning to be in the here and now. One of the things that you may have heard me talk about, right, as we talk about this transforming your identity, is that when I'm speaking, for example, as I'm speaking now, my mind is almost empty. It feels like it's empty. I'm not scanning ahead. I'm not thinking about words. I'm not thinking about what you're thinking of me. I'm only thinking about, in a sense, about being here in the moment and communicating an idea, communicating a message, making an impression on you, making sure that what I'm saying is clear, that my intention is being communicated as clearly as possible. So my body and mind does everything it needs to do to accomplish that goal. It uses my hands, it uses my expression, it uses the vocabulary, it uses my knowledge to help me achieve this intention, to fulfill this intention, right? So I'm not thinking about all these things. I'm just almost empty-minded with an intention, and then I focus on that intention. When you do that, you stop interrupting yourself. You get into a flow, into a rhythm. I believe that mindfulness can help you achieve this. Yes. So, transforming your identity. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. This is where you want to get to. You want to get to the place where you no longer think of yourself as a person who stutters, right? This is why your vocabulary is very, very important. Don't say, I'm a covert stutterer, I'm a stutterer, I'm a this, and I. You can say things like, I got stuck. Sometimes I get stuck. There are certain words that sometimes I get stuck, and you don't want to keep saying that either. But it's okay to say getting stuck, because everyone gets stuck. don't use stuttering terminology. I know some of you have gone through many different programs, you've studied this, you may know more about terminology and some of the technical terms than I do. Don't use them. Don't identify yourself and associate yourself with stuttering and stammering and stuttering terminology. Other people may do that, but I'm telling you, it's not helpful. Okay? What's helpful is to identify yourself as an excellent speaker. Even if you don't say I am, you can say I'm becoming an excellent speaker. I'm becoming a genius at speaking, because you do have the ability. I've seen, talked to some of you, and I've seen what you're capable of doing. The modeling is what can take you to that next level. Borrow your model's confidence. Borrow the relaxation that your model gives you. Borrow the smoothness and the rhythm. In conversations, if you can't think about your model, then think about how you speak when you model, right? Say, okay, how do I speak when I model? So let me speak with a little more energy in this conversation. Let me use my hands, right? Let me just increase the pitch of my voice a little. Let me modulate my voice a little, right? This is how I speak when I model. Others of you can actually pull in and say, well, how would Michael speak in this conversation? Or how would my model speak? And you can do it in conversation. Either way, it's getting you to the same deal, right? The same deal. The deal is to get to the place where in conversations and presentations, your identity has been transformed. Modeling is the key to that. So work with it, work through it, keep pushing at it. The more that you remind yourself to do it, the better it's going to get. Even if in conversations you never quite get it right, that is, you never quite are able to fully capture your model, but if you're focused on speaking like your mind, you keep reminding yourself. So you're speaking for a minute, oh man, I'm not modeling anymore. But I did speak a little smoother. Even though I tried to model, I started modeling and then I forgot, but I did speak a little better. So you just keep bringing yourself back, and what happens is eventually you begin to change your own speech just by struggling with trying to model. Okay, so keep up the struggle until, and it can be kind of fun and challenging, right, as you work through this, because remember, you're not working towards not stuttering, right? That's no fun, just not stuttering. What's fun is you're actually working towards becoming an excellent speaker. All the skills that I'm teaching you are the same skills that excellent speakers use. So if you model that, you work on that, even if you model someone else that exhibits those skills, you're going to be working towards becoming an excellent speaker, which is far beyond not stuttering. Now, I want to encourage you, those of you who haven't yet, I want to encourage you to check out the Smooth Speech Bootcamp course, right, which includes attending as many boot camps as you like. One is coming up Saturday. The new Pro 90D, right, the new Pro 90D course and the Smooth Speech, they're two different products, if you will, very much related, but the difference in the Smooth Speech Bootcamp is that you can attend as many boot camps as you want, and there's 30 minutes of coaching attached to that. It's like $150 more. If you go through the boot camp, it's actually only $100 more, right? But you get access to a community, you get access to me and Sakshi to come into the boot camps and to actually practice, which you don't have in the traditional self-study. You get one 30-minute coaching session after you've been in it for 8 weeks. That's the difference. That's a big difference, okay? However, some of you may just want to do the self-study. If you can afford $349, then you can afford $499. And I have payment terms, right? So I have where you can pay in installments. If you can afford one, you can save and you can afford the other. Get into the Smooth Speech. The reason that we designed it is because I don't want people buying the course and skipping stuff and, oh, well, I don't want to do the modeling, and just getting lost. So, oh, well, I'm getting busy and I'm not practicing as much as I should, so then you get discouraged. I don't want you spending your money and then just kind of slipping away. I want to keep you more engaged, and so we've designed these boot camps and the coaching to help keep you engaged, to get you past the 8 to 12 weeks, okay? That's the reason we did it. We want you, if you're going to spend your money, if you're going to invest your money, you're going to be making a good investment, because we want to keep you immersed in the process and not out there on your own slipping away, all right? So I'm going to put a link. We're having a boot camp this Saturday. You don't have to get the whole thing. The boot camp is $97. But if you get the whole course, you're also going to get access to the Box app, right? It's powered by Box, which means you're going to get everything in this Box app. That's all the videos, all the audios, as well as all your daily listening. And I have a link, right? Where you click this link, you register, you get a Box account, and everything's right in there, neatly organized in folders. So if you wanted, you'd never really have to go online to the course. The cool thing about this Box app is you can save those files that you want for offline, right? So you don't have to burn up your data. That's included in this new Smooth Speech Bootcamp course, okay? You get that. So go ahead and take a look at that. Everything is laid out for you. All you have to do is do it. You have questions about modeling, about airflow linking, come to a boot camp. We're going to practice. We're going to take care of that, okay? So if you have any questions about that and you want to talk with me about the Smooth Speech Bootcamp course as well as the events, please feel free to leave a comment or send me a message via Facebook Messenger, or just go to my site and click the little bubble in the bottom right-hand corner. All right, any comments or questions? I have a client that I will be working with in just a few minutes, but I do want to go ahead and take some questions or comments. So we talked about a few things today. We talked about focus, shifting your focus. That's a secret. Why is it a secret? Because most people focus on how to stop stuttering, cures for stuttering. And you end up burning up a lot of money and spending a lot of time and wasting a lot of time, okay? Wasting a lot of time running after quick fixes and cures, and this expert says this, and we got studies proving this. Everything that I'm saying is grounded and proven in science, and it works. It absolutely works. So you can do, in fact, I encourage you to do your own research. Trust it, it works. Focus on becoming a speaker. Immerse yourself in this process. Integrate it and embed it in your day. And then 3, transform your identity through modeling. Utkarsh, you often talk about one of your clients who won a standing ovation and people were crying during her Toastmasters. Can we expect an interview with her? She's a very private person. She would not give me an interview at all. In fact, it's difficult to get interviews. I'm so thankful, like for people like Tyler. This is a very private thing. I've even asked some of you for interviews, and some of you have said no or not right now. And I understand, because you don't want people knowing that you stuttered. I think it's something that when you get to a certain place, Santiago, ¿cómo estamos? When you get to a certain place where you've not overcome this in a sense where you're not speaking perfectly, but you're able to ask for what you want, say what you want, make phone calls, you feel more confident. No one's perfect. No one's going to get to 100%. That's not what this program is about. But when you get to a place where you can say what you want to say, of course you're going to get stuck sometime. That's not the point. Then do an interview, because it's going to inspire someone else. This is something you should be proud of, right? I used to tell people way before I got into this, when I was a pastor, when I was a professor, I would tell people I used to stutter. So what, right? Yeah, I mean, so what? Be proud of it. This is something that most people never overcome because they don't do the work, right? They don't do the work. So be proud of it. So that was a long response that she's very, very private. She gave me a written review, a written testimonial. I talk to her like once a year, and she's working on her PhD. She might already have it. She's gotten 2 or 3 promotions, and she's doing presentations, and she was a severe stutterer. Severe, I mean very, very severe. One of the most severe that I've had. And she got these standing ovations within 8 weeks of our work together. Now, she had a lot of work to do after that, but within 8 weeks, I'm telling you, you can be an excellent presenter. So anyone else have any comments? So if you don't see a lot of interviews, that's because people are private. This is not like a regular program, right? People are not regular people here. People are very private. So people don't want to share this. They want to be secretive. Sometimes they only give me reviews because they don't want them shared. So we have to understand that's just a part of it. Any other comments or questions before we wrap it up? Could you please arrange another Mona McDonald interview? Yes, I'll see what I can do. She's a part of this group, so you can feel free to mention her in a comment, right? Mention her in a comment. And I think she's changed her last name, so I will check with her. Yeah. Any other questions or comments as we wrap up? So I hope that you have a chance to go back and review the other video. I told you I was going to leave a special link for you where I recorded this entire 3 Stop Stuttering Secrets. It might be like a 20-minute program or something like that. Get the video, written transcript, and audio. I'm going to put a link to that after my session. I'm also going to put a link to the boot camp. You want to get into the boot camp. It's going to help you and it's going to keep you engaged. Santiago. Okay, Santiago, yeah, I look forward to that, man. Look forward to talking with you. So I'm going to wrap up now so I can get to my next session. I hope that this was helpful for those of you that are watching. And for those of you that watch the recording, please feel free to leave your comments there as well, okay? I'll get you those links within 90 minutes. Okay, within 90 minutes, the links will be posted here. All right? So I'll see everyone later if there's no other questions or comments. Lior, very good, very good. Okay. All right. So we'll see everyone soon. Next week, as a matter of fact.